Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, I'm Allie, and today I have my beauty and books where I'm going to sit down and get ready with you and talk about all the books I read last month in September. I am currently just kind of letting my hair like air dry, and we are like full studio lights today. So if I look really washed out or the coloring is just not really giving today, that is why. But I actually got a little adventurous today, not with all of these products, but with some of them. I went through my collection today, was like, you know what, I'm gonna use some things that I haven't used in a long time because I need to switch things up more. I've been just really bad about it the last like 6 months of just using like the same thing. So trying to get better. I'm probably not going to be talking too much about the makeup. I usually just tend to stick to talking about the books while doing my makeup, but I will have everything on my face down below in the description for you guys. And like always, drop me down in the comments what you read the past month. It can be everything you read. It can be your favorite read of the, past month. I know mine's coming at you guys a little bit later with how my schedule is, but better than never. So first of all, I'm going to pull up my books. I'm going to go into the Stila One Step Prime. I do think I forgot a brow product, so I need to get my dip brow gel from ABH out of my makeup bag, which happens to be right next to my foot. So I swear my camera's going to focus on that jack-o'-lantern back there like this whole video, and it's going to be so irritating editing this. But yeah, my makeup bag has just been like my go-to for months. I literally keep all my essentials in here that I use all the time, but that just means the rest of my collection has been like super neglected. My reading has been wild lately though. I think I read the most books I've read in 1 month last month. It was a really good reading month for me. I think I was really just escaping reality a lot. So I started off the month with diving headfirst into Paul Tremblay. It's been a journey. And I read his book, Head Full of Ghosts, and now that I'm sitting down and filming this, I'm like, I don't think you guys will see my video on this book yet because I've been filming 3 books by Paul Tremblay, but I haven't got to like technically the 4th book yet, but I'm doing the video based off of 3 of his books, but I've also read a book with short stories from him too, but I have to finish that last one before I can get that video up for you guys. But the first one I did read is A Head Full of Ghosts, and I don't know, I guess when it comes down to reviewing or giving you guys like my rating and stuff like that, it's going to be a little bit of a spoiler for that video, but I'll just try to be more brief about the ones that are going to be coming up in videos for you guys. So it's not like a broken record type of ordeal. But A Head Full of Ghosts was really good. This follows a family who are experiencing weird things going on within their home, and particularly with their daughter, their oldest daughter. And it's kind of this family navigating it. It's very much so like The Exorcist or The Haunting in Connecticut or even like The Conjuring, where we have a type of like possession going on within the house and it's affecting a certain person in the house. And it's kind of in the perspective or point of view of the younger daughter who is watching her sister go through this. The parents seem to think it's a good idea to bring a film crew in to do a reality show on this pretty much like possession that's taking place with their child. It's a wild ride, and it definitely gave me a glimpse into the work of what I would be reading more of, diving down that, rabbit hole of his work. I don't know. I had so much fun with it, and it was something that really captivating and keeping me intrigued throughout. I don't think there was a time where I was bored with this one. I think I just love a good exorcism. Next up, I'm so excited. You can kind of see it back there. Hellbent. I read the 2nd book in the Alex Stern series from Leigh Bardugo, and oh My God, you guys. Now, I want to just straight off the bat say, I understand completely that this is not going to be a series for everyone. You're gonna like really have to like darker elements. Excuse me. You're gonna have to like darker elements when it comes to books and just darker characters in general. These characters have really been through it. And this is definitely a sequel, so you are going to want to read Ninth House. Just right there, Ninth House first, and then going to Hellbent, or you're gonna be like, oh, what's going on? Who are these people? You're not gonna probably understand why Alex is the way that she is either. So you're gonna get a lot of information in Ninth House. I mean, a lot. I think it was so much that some people just could not handle it because it is just like so much. If you're at least somewhat intrigued by it, and overall, like, enjoying the characters, the plot, like, where it's going, stick with it because it's so good. Without giving any type of, like, spoilers for the first one, I feel like it would be safer just to tell you kind of what's going on there. This is a dark academia, and it follows Alex, who is very troubled and kind of just going through it in her hometown, and she is now arrested, and she is put into this room until this guy shows up and talks to her about how, you know, she has these certain abilities that they could use at this university. And so pretty much it's like her, it's like her get out of jail free card. And so she takes it and she goes to this university where she learns about the secret societies within them and all of the dark magic and everything else that these like secret societies like have been doing. In a way, it feels so real because it just seems like it's, you know, it's our world. So it feels like it's so like real, and some of the shady stuff that goes on, you could be like, oh my God, that probably does happen. But at the same time, there is some very far-fetched elements in it, and she is given a role to help on the nights of like the rituals and stuff like that, pretty much helping the rich get richer, pretty much. They come in, pay a bunch of money for these like black magic rituals to happen that will help them like achieve something better. So if it's business career wise or whatever the case may be, they are asking for that, and then these secret societies are putting on these rituals for them to get those things, like dark black magic. And in these events, something happens to the character Darlington, and he is kind of like the person that oversees Alex Stern and is helping her learn the ways. And he disappears, and they kind of fall down a rabbit hole of wanting to try to figure out what happened to him or where he went. There is obviously so much more to the first one because, I mean, we're deep diving into everything with it, that going into the second one, it's more so on the journey afterwards. I feel like there's not as much details and as much things that you really have to grasp. I do think if you read them closer together, it would definitely help because you'll know more what's going on. You'll remember like where you left off, because it very much so, I feel like anyways, personally, it picks kind of right back up where they left off. I am so sorry. I added way too much product. You can tell I haven't worn a full face product in so long. I've just been wearing concealer like every single day, and then that's it. But long story short, I did give Hellbent 5 out of 5. I really love this series. It's very different. And I think that's why I like it. You definitely have to like dark academia. I mean, books with magic and, you know, some like far-fetched things, but it's dark. You really have to like those elements, but it's good. Even the weird moments and all with the second one, I enjoyed it. I liked it. But I think I might be a little biased because I do really like the characters. I also read the third book in the Wayward Kids from Seanan and McGuire. It is, I gotta look, Beneath the Sugar Sky. I think that is what it's called. My little picture of it is further away, trying to remember everything that I read this like past month. But this one was good. but it wasn't really what I was expecting from the first one. I just feel like kind of lays out the whole thing. It's so hard for me to do these videos and talk to you guys about series because it's just like, I feel like I'm a broken record, or it's just like, I can't really say that much because it's going to give something away from like the previous books. And with this series, I'm already 3 books in. Wayward Kids series is a bunch of these like novella books. The first one follows the home where these kids go to stay, and like I've mentioned before, if you've been on my channel for some time, they at one point in their life are offered a door that they took, and it took them to another world, and now they have come back through that door or have been forced out of that door, and some kids hate it, some kids loved it. So there's a bunch of troubled kids with what they've went through, or a bunch of troubled kids that are grieving because they want to go back so bad. And that's where Eleanor's home comes into play for the wayward kids who want to go back to their doors. And so it really lays down all the logistics of it in the first book. The second book follows 2 of the characters who are siblings and the world that they go to. It's like their complete story. So we know them in the first book from living in the house because they've went to their door already. They've come through. They want to go back, but they're stuck at that house right at that moment anyways. Where in the second book, it's their entire story. So it's their life on Earth, I guess you would call it. And then when their opportunity came up to go through the door, them going through the door, their other world, how it was. And the third one, it kind of is like that in a way, but it's also not. It's almost like a bunch of these kids at the house are on a journey to help someone from the past. And so it's really hard to explain it without like giving it away of like what's going on, what's happening and stuff. She's definitely opening up the story more than I thought she was going to. I was kind of okay with knowing that we were just going to get, each book was going to be about another kid, another world, their whole life story, journey, and learning about these different worlds and stuff, that I was okay with that. So going into this one, I was just, I don't know. I enjoyed myself, and I think I had seen like some ratings on it and people being like, this is probably the worst out of the series. And I really think it is for those reasons. Like, I'm wondering if like the next book we're going to circle back and it's going to be more so the kid, their journey, their life, and all of that, which I was kind of missing from this one. But it was still entertaining. It almost just kind of felt like a segue book into like the next one. Like, I just didn't really understand most of the time like why this book was in the series, but her writing and how like just adventurous it is was just really cool. And I've been loving learning about like the different worlds. And this one was like a candy world, so it was pretty cool. I think I don't even know if I've given this one a rating, even on Goodreads yet. I think I would give this one a 3 or 4. I'm not 100% sure. I just have such a good time reading her books that I feel like even if they're not like my absolute favorite, I just enjoy the ride so much and I'm loving these kids. Then I read Fourth Wing. Oh, hear me out, you guys. So I am definitely somebody who is not a big fantasy reader. I feel like just this past year has been, I think last year I had the realization that like, hey, I think I like stuff that's not just horror, thriller, and sometimes romance. I think I could go forward with reading other things, and I started kind of dabbling into like sci-fi horror and things like that. And then I was like, I just kind of want to like try some fantasy. So I started trying some, and I was really enjoying myself. And while this is definitely fantasy, it does have a little bit of romance in it as well. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of you guys know about this book. Even if you have not read it, I'm sure you already know quite a bit about it because it just blew up and went everywhere. I don't know. I kind of felt like even going in it, like I really wanted to read it because I wanted to know what the hype was about. But I thought it was going to be one of those things where I read it and then I was just kind of like, I don't get the hype, you know? Like, so I kind of felt like I went into it not super negative, but also like not super positive about it because I was just like, I'm not gonna like this, but it is what it is. I got sucked in, you guys. It was actually pretty entertaining. And I feel like it's hard for me to give you guys like a good, I guess, rating or like review of a book like this, just because, like I've mentioned, I'm not really a big fantasy reader. If you want to drop me some recommendations for what you think is like top tier fantasy, please do. I would love to check them out. But for me, this was just kind of like opening that door a little bit and kind of like dabbling in it a little bit, if you will. And I enjoyed it, you guys. I liked that it had like a good, decent plot to it and wasn't just full on just mushy, you know? And, you know, I had my critiques, absolutely, but I kind of felt like going into it, I was like, oh no, I would think like certain characters were gonna do certain things or be certain ways. And I was like, I am not gonna like this. But it ended up shocking me that it wasn't that way. And I was like, okay, I can handle this type of fantasy. Like, I like this. And it's a romance fantasy, but it has like a lot of action, adventure to it, dragons. I mean, it's the full-on dragon fantasy. But I can see where a lot of younger people are probably gonna like this. And if you're more mature or you are more... I feel like if you are even more so like, I hate to say like mature, but I don't really know how to word that better. I guess if you have been in that realm of fantasy reads for a long time, you may look at this one as like, really? Like, that's cheesy or that's like not that great, and completely understandable. For me, being a newbie to fantasy, I enjoyed myself and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I really enjoyed reading about dragons, and just the whole adventure to it was just like so much fun. And I liked that the romance was more kept to like a minimal, or like, I mean, it's spicy, but like I like that it wasn't like super over the top, I guess. Definitely had my critiques, but honestly, you guys, I think I'm still landing on a 5 for this one. I just enjoyed it so much that it's kind of hard for me to give it anything less. I kept kind of telling myself, I don't know, it feels more like a 4, you know? Because I do have critiques. But at the end of the day, I had so much fun with it. And I'm excited to see where the next one goes as well. So I will be reading the next one. My next Paul Tremblay was Cabin at the End of the World. Wasn't a fan. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not. I kind of feel like there is a bunch of controversy about Paul Tremblay and how he ends his books or how he writes certain things. And I can understand that. I feel like this one just really kept me like, I don't know. There were so many parts I was so bored. I just felt like the overall like ending was so unsatisfying. It didn't do it for me. This is about these two guys who are living like, or staying out at this cabin out in the middle of nowhere with their daughter, and these like strangers come up and start talking to their daughter without them knowing. And then, you know, they come around front and see like their daughter talking to these strangers, and they're telling them that they're gonna have to do like the ultimate sacrifice on their family to like save the world from becoming like the end of the world or whatever. And it's just pretty much, it's almost like The Strangers, where these people are just like tied up until they can decide what to do, and they have to make the decision. Like, they can't make the decision for them. And it just, I think when it's in that one setting and almost like that isolated feeling, I usually don't mind it. It's almost like suspense. I'm on the edge of my seat. But I just got bored so many times with this, and then again, like the ending just kind of left me unsettled, but not in a good way. Like, I was just like, that's it. Like, I stuck through this book and that's it. I was pretty bummed. I think I'm leaning on, I'm not somebody that gives out a lot of 2s, but I am between a 2 and a 3. Like, it was not great for me. I did not enjoy myself at all. But I came back with The Beast You Are by Paul Tremblay, and I just did a whole like weekly vlog. I was working out again, doing my walks every morning at the cemetery, so I was reading this at the cemetery every morning. If you guys want to check out that video, I really loved it. I overall gave it a 4. It's just kind of like a compilation of short stories by Paul Tremblay, with the newest one being The Beast You Are. And while The Beast You Are story was not my favorite, I did enjoy a lot of the other ones throughout the book as well. And yeah, I talk about it really in detail in that, well, not giving away anything, no spoilers are in that video, but I talk about it more in detail. Like I gave a rating for each short story, my thoughts on each short story, and kind of like ranked them. So if you guys want to check that out, but as a total, like as a whole for the book, I gave it a 4. But yeah, it's just a horror short stories, all by Paul Tremblay. It was definitely a good time. I read another by Riley Sager, Survive the Night. This is one of his like, not older, but like not super newer one. I'm trying to like catch up on all of his work. Guys, I need just a minute. I'm trying to figure out what eyeshadow I want to wear today. I feel like I can't like multitask this. I think I'm in the mood for a little bit of Moonspell. Yeah, Survive the Night, I did really like. This is what I'm talking about isolated setting where it worked for me. So this girl is pretty much like looking for an Uber in this like weird like town or whatever, but like she needs to travel, and you know, this guy like offers to like give her a ride or for her to ride with him because they're kind of going in the same direction, and so they get in the car together, and there has been a serial killer out on the loose. And this girl is already like shaken up because of like her past and what she's been through in her past, and her like best friend like being a victim of said serial killer. And so for her to just jump into a car with a random stranger anyways, but that is a whole like premise of the book is like, did she get in a car with a serial killer? And so most of the book is them in the car and like her like putting pieces together and questioning like if it is him, and then like trying to think of ways that she could like escape if it is him and like get away. It's a pretty good time. It's Riley Sager. There's twists, there's turns, and it's overall really fun and an interesting time. It was a fun ride for sure. I finally read it, you guys. You guys should be so proud of me. The Gunslinger from Stephen King, the first book in the Dark Tower series. I've started it finally. I've said I was going to start it for like, I feel like 5 months now, and I finally started it. I absolutely loved it. I went into it not like confident because I was like, the reviews on this is like, I mean, there's people who love it, don't get me wrong, but the reviews on it, everybody just being like, it's so slow, it's so boring, oh my gosh. And a lot of them are like avid like Stephen King readers. So I was like, what is going on? Like, is this book that boring? And I loved it, you guys. There definitely was like some slow parts, especially at the beginning, just kind of getting familiar with the direction he went with it and getting to kind of know like who the gunslinger is and all of his background. But pretty much he's on a journey to the tower, the Dark Tower, and he is kind of like following this guy. I forgot what he's called, like the guy all in black or whatever. And so it's just kind of like a journey, like getting to him and stuff. But I just enjoyed it. It's one of the shorter reads or shorter books for Stephen King for sure. But I really liked it. I think even for what it is, I was just kind of like, oh, I want to keep reading. Like I liked it so much. It was so fun. Definitely fantasy. But for me, it was just super entertaining, especially like more towards like the end and like the things that were like going on and the tarot cards. It doesn't really give anything away, but if you read it and you get to that point, like to me, I was like, what? Like, this is so cool. I'm trying to get my eyes even. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 5. I read quite a bit of Stephen King because there was a Stephen King readathon. So my next one was The Outsider. I really wanted to finish out my Holly Gibney. So I'll be pretty brief with these because I do talk about it in that video, whether it's up or not yet. You guys will be seeing it. But The Outsider doesn't really have Holly Gibney in it until like the very end, but this is one of his like crime fiction books. So if you weren't really a fan of like the Bill Hodges trilogy, you probably won't like this too much. I found it interesting. I just didn't really connect with any of the characters besides Holly towards the end. Just because it's not Bill, it's not all the people that we know from those books. It's brand new faces, and it was just kind of like hard to really like anybody just like starting off this like brand new, like clean slate almost. It just kind of felt weird, especially since it was like written the same exact way. And I was just like, I'm really missing my people. Like I need Jerome and Holly, and I miss Bill, and it's not the same as the Bill Hodges trilogy. But Holly finally makes her appearance, and I love her to death. She definitely helped bring the book back to life for me towards the end, because it's a long one. That sucker's like almost, I think, like 600 pages. It's a long, beefy one to get through, but it wasn't bad. I really still am enjoying the sci-fi direction it's taking. Very horror sci-fi. It's very dark. He does not hold back. So just keep that in mind if you do go into it. I believe I gave it a 4. Now Gerald's game was, whew, it was quite the ride. It was beefier than I guess what I was expecting as well. So I had a little bit of a harder time getting through it. It is about a woman and a man who go off. They're kind of trying to like rekindle their relationship. They're going off together at this like cabin their family like owns, and while at this cabin they start getting a little kinky, and with Gerald's games he handcuffs her to the bedpost like with her like arms out, and starts kind of getting frisky with her. And because of past trauma and abuse that she has endured, she is triggered and tells him to stop and kicks him off, and he hits his head and dies. And so she is out secluded in the middle of nowhere, handcuffed to a bed. And it's kind of a survival book of her like trying to stay alive, but also it's very claustrophobic. It's very isolation. It's very intense. That pumpkin really wants to be the star of the show right now. It's very intense. It's so many trigger warnings, you guys. I was triggered myself by quite a few elements in the book. But I can say I enjoyed the overall message from it and like where the book finally got to towards the end. But getting there was a journey that I wasn't really prepared for, and that in some parts I didn't like. It was very uncomfy, and a lot of parts I definitely had a hard time with it. It was for the readathon, so we did the movie watch, and because it was the buddy read, and we watched Mike Flanagan's movie of it, and I think I'm kind of siding with the people who said that they liked the movie a little bit more than the book, just because it wasn't so like daunting for me, and I felt like I was able to like handle it a little bit better, and or kind of like the direction Mike Flanagan went in versus Stephen King with this particular thing, because some of it was just so triggering and even uncalled for, in my opinion, in some parts. But I think I'm still landing at a 4 with it because, again, I love woman empowerment, and I love like the overall message of it. And she was definitely another female character from his that I enjoyed more of his writing style with her, kind of like I did with Rosie and... Wait, what's her name, Rosie? Yeah, I think so. Rosie and Rose Matter. The Mist, I loved, you guys. I can't remember if I gave this one 4 or 5 stars. I feel like it's either way, it's good. It is definitely a novella, especially for King. It's a lot shorter. It was actually, I think, originally published in one of his like anthologies, and then it was later made into like its own like novella. And it's very loved, very sci-fi horror. If you've seen the movie, you probably know the gist of this book, but pretty much these people, there's a bad storm in this family going about their day. The mom is going to go work in the garden. The dad is going to run to the store, so he takes his son with him. And while there, this mist comes over the convenience store. And it's another kind of like isolated setting where they're kind of stuck in this convenience store, and weird sci-fi things and monsters are happening in the mist. And so it's survival, there's a lot of deaths, and it's just eerie, and you know, it was very creepy to read. I really enjoyed it, so much better than the movie. The ending, so much better than the movie. It was really good. I enjoyed it so much. I also read Firestarter, which was another beefy one, and that one I ended up giving, I think, 4 stars. I could even give it 3, I think. It was just, there was so many. Usually I don't mind how wordy Stephen King is, but in this case, I was like, we gotta wrap it up a little bit. Like, it was very wordy in places that I was just like already kind of checking out of the story. And I've only watched the first Firestarter with little Drew Barrymore, and I love Drew Barrymore to death. Even her as like a little kid, so freaking cute. But that movie, it's hard to watch. I definitely need to watch the newer one now that I've read it. But definitely liked the book versus the movie, but it was just super wordy. It is about these people who meet, they're kind of needing like the extra money. They meet at like this facility that's running these like tests, and you make money if you are a participant. You might get a placebo, you might get the real deal, just like a testing type of ordeal. And the 2 people qualify for it. They actually get the real ordeal, and it kind of turns them into like extraordinaries where they have like abilities to like make people do things, or to, you know, they have mind powers pretty much. And then they fall in love, and they have a little girl who ends up being like Pyro. Yeah, Pyro. That's what I was trying to think of. Where she has like the ability of fire, and obviously they're being like hunted and like chased down because, you know, they're going to be really good weapons for like the military or whatever, and they want to see like how far they can like stretch their abilities and stuff. So they're kind of like on the run and trying to escape these science guys. It was interesting, and I do like stories with like extraordinaries and like abilities and stuff like that, but it was definitely wordy in parts, and I was just kind of like, all right, we got to wrap it up a little bit. Holly, on the other hand, his newest book, I know it's getting a lot of mixed reviews because there is talk of the pandemic. There is talk of politics and, you know, stuff like that in this one for sure. But I feel like if you can get past that or handle that, it's really good, especially if you like Holly. If you don't like Holly, you're not going to like this. Why would you? It's literally called Holly. She's the main girl. I did read the short story, If It Bleeds, in between The Outsider and Holly, just to get that last little piece of Holly in before I read the full-on novel. And I did enjoy the short story as well. And I did enjoy Holly. I gave it 5 stars. I just love her so much. I love her quirkiness. I love the representation that is there with her different things like OCD, and, you know, some people do say that maybe she is even on like the spectrum when it comes to some of her like tics and mannerisms. And I've just always loved her in every single book that she's been in. I love the character so much, and I think he does an amazing job writing Holly. I know it's not for everybody, and some people even go as far to say that it's annoying. Can't relate. I love her so much, and I feel like we need more characters like that, and we need them to be main characters because we need that representation, and I think he just did that character very well. Again, it's kind of like a crime fiction. Definitely, if Holly's involved, it definitely kind of goes more sci-fi. It's almost like there is these, not really extraordinaries, but like E.T. Like there's like these certain entities that are on Earth and are doing heinous things and are like pretty much like using a human's body to do these things. And they're just so interesting. And I also feel like although hers are still kind of like gory in a sense, or like rough, he doesn't hold back, I don't feel like they're near as bad in the books that kind of revolve more around Holly, like If It Bleeds. I mean, don't get me wrong, one of them involves a school. Like, it's still sad. There's still, like, hard things to, like, read. But I didn't think it was near as bad as, like, what I read in The Outsider, crime-wise. But, I don't know. I like my little, like, updates on Holly and seeing, like, you know, where she's at now since, like, the Bill Hodges trilogy and stuff. I just really enjoy the character. And again, she may not be for everybody, but she is definitely for me. I really enjoyed his new book. And I can understand. I think I'm tired of reading about the pandemic and like, you know, politics. Like we read books to escape reality. I understand that completely. But at the same time, I can also see where other people are saying like, okay, but like what about in 10, 20, 30, so on years, when we look back and read this, we're going to be like, oh yeah, this happened around 2020 when all that was going down. So it's still a little too fresh for us right now. But I do think it's like cool to have those pieces of history in it, just like his other books where it's cool to read about like who was the president at that time and making it feel like it's more real life because he's naming real people, which some people critiqued him on in some of his books. So he's doing that now. All right, then I read Mary by Nat Cassidy, I believe. I think I gave this one a 4. It was really good. I had no idea where this book was going to go. Even halfway through this book, I had no idea where it was going to go. He said this was kind of like his take on Carrie, I guess. I didn't really get that vibe. I guess I can to an extent, but instead of focusing on puberty, he focused on a woman who is in her, I think late 40s or mid 40s, kind of starting to go through early stages of menopause and highlighting those. And it was definitely a very interesting read, especially coming from a man. And I felt a little indifferent about it in certain parts. I was just really confused. I honestly felt like there was so many storylines going on at once too that my mind was just blown a lot of the time. That mascara, I realized, is like dried out, so I gotta get my other one. But yeah, I think it was a decent read. There definitely is those horror elements, body horror moments, and I found Mary to be intriguing, but not a very likable character, which I think was okay in the end, but getting there was just kind of in some parts, I was just like, girl, like, come on. But I don't know. I would say go into it with an open mind. Don't think that you're going to go into this book and it be like a little horror book about menopause. No, it's full on paranormal. There's cults. There's a lot of dark things. A serial killer. There's a lot going on here. In a lot of ways, it kept giving me flashbacks of the movie by M. Night Shyamalan, The Village, in a certain extent. Not the same type of story, but it did give me those vibes. Like, I was like, this is giving cult. And the last book I finished up for the month was Mr. Magic by Kiersten White. And I've been kind of like waiting for people's reviews of this because her first adult debut, Hyde, did not go over well for many people. Again, can't relate. I loved Hyde so much that I was really looking forward to this one. This one follows a girl who her and her friends were a part of a child's TV show when they were little. It's giving like Barney, or like, I don't know, I kept thinking of Out of the Box. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but I kept thinking of that where it's like all of these kids doing make-believe. That is like what the show is about, but there was kind of like a mascot named Mr. Magic who wore a cape, and he kind of like came in and saved the day, or he came in to like, not like full on scold them, but like more so to like help fix their problems and be like, you see, like this is what you're doing wrong. You need to do this instead or whatever, like correct them. So you get flashbacks of that. There's a bunch of songs throughout too, which are the creativity, she took it there. This is definitely a mixed media, really interesting. I loved all the nostalgic like throwback references. This girl is now living on a farm and her father has passed away and his name is kind of like put out there into the world. And so her like old friends from the show find her. They're like questioning her and like asking her like what happened to her and why did her and her dad like run off when she was little, and now she's having to like try to put all the pieces together and try to remember when she literally has like straight up amnesia pretty much and does not remember what happened or why the show ended and what incident or tragic thing happened all those years ago. And funny enough, there's a reunion, so they're getting all these people back together for a podcast type of reunion. It was a fun time. I gave it a 5. I thought it was really interesting. For the most part, I did like the characters. I definitely had like more critiques on like certain characters and not really like, I don't know, I didn't really care for the main character as much. I don't know if it was the amnesia or what, but she just was not very personable and like, I don't know, I didn't really have an attachment. But that was all of the books I read last month. And the finished makeup look. Definitely played with some favorites of mine. I always love the Moonspell palette and love playing with it. And also Ofra Long Lasting Liquid Lipstick and Verona. Love this. But yeah, it was a pretty decent reading month. A lot of really high ratings and a lot of books that are now my favorites. Again, let me know what you guys read. Thank you for hanging out with me for this super long. I think these are always going to be long because I can drone on about books forever. I apologize. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys in the next video.
I've been doing fine except the stabbing pain up in my chest and I'm stuttering. I'm done. But now you're gone again.